My phone wakes me at 307 a.m. with a single, unnamed number, and the bright white glare of its screen cuts through the dark like a blade when I answer. The line is filled with nothing but the sound of someone breathing in perfect time with my own before we go any further. I'll ask you for a favor. Like the video, subscribe to my channel, and leave a comment below this video with what time you listen to this story. I tell myself it's a prank because that's what you tell yourself when something impossible is patient enough to be petty. The breathing on the other end is shallow and taut, exactly matching the rise and fall of my ribs, a metronome pressed to the throat. My hand is cold, the phone is sweating against my palm. The hallway bulb above the front door stutters twice, one falter, a small dark blink, then another, as if someone pinched the filament. And the shadow the light throws is suddenly wrong. Longer in places it should be short. The silence between breaths grows heavy, and the house seems to lean toward the sound, listening like a body turning its head. I whisper test words into the receiver, but the line keeps its rhythm, a puppet heartbeat that answers no syllables. The first thing to change is the temperature. The air in the hall goes flat and metallic, not quite cold, but edged with a chill that makes the skin on my forearms pucker. That thin cold is an ultimatum. It forces me to get up. I stand with the phone pressed to my ear and walk the length of the hall with the breathing stitched to my steps. Each footfall feels too loud, dampened only by the delicate, synchronized inhalations from the speaker and from my own chest. I tell myself a name, my roommate, a coworker, anything to snag a normal motive, and the speaker keeps time without replying. At the door, I touch the deadbolt with trembling fingers and feel the familiar resistance under the brass thumb. And then, impossibly, it slides with a click that isn't mine. The click is small, a mechanical sigh, but it sounds like betrayal in the near dark. Downstairs, where the porch light usually hums steady and yellow, the bulb blinks out in a slow, deliberate rhythm. Off, off, pause, off. With every dip of light, the house feels smaller, as if the walls are folding in to listen closer. That click of the lock, the dimming porch lamp, the way the breathing remains perfectly in time with me, those are not coincidences. My phone screen, glossy and blue-white in the dark, changes then, as if someone is swiping at the interface without touching it. A contact I never saved appears, bold and impossible at the top of the call, my own name. The moment my name blooms on the screen, the sound from the other side of the line alters. The breathing curves inward, a little wetter at the edges, like someone inhaling against a damp cloth. I should hang up. Rational thought files an orderly list of actions. Call the police, bolt the door, plug the line in case it's somehow local. But the house has already started rearranging priorities for me. A small lamp in the living room clicks on by itself, its filament flaring with a harsh blue-white that paints the carpet and throws my silhouette long and narrow. The lamp's switch is a hair to the left of the base. Where I left it earlier, my fingers had brushed it and left no print I can feel. My palms are slick, as if I've been washing them, salt tang of sweat in my mouth. I try to press the lock back, but the deadbolt refuses to obey. And then, as if punctuating that refusal, a knock answers from the other side of the front glass with a damp, gloved thud that ricochets up through the soles of my feet. The knock breaks whatever thin calm I was borrowing from logic, and the sound is a blade. It comes from the glass of the front door. 3 heavy, wet taps, slow and measured, so close that the vibration travels like a tremor across my sternum. That noise is not a polite visitor or a prankster pounding at midnight. It is precisely timed to the breath in the phone, to the cadence that is now engraving itself against my ribs. I am suddenly aware of how small the apartment is, how few places to run, and how the warmth of my kitchen tile is a poor defense against whatever is at that glass. The phone trembles in my hand, and the vibration makes my thumbnail ache. Without thinking, I step back, and my elbow knocks against the coffee table. The table shudders, a small wood cough, and a candle I forgot to blow out tips, spilling wax in a thin white ribbon that smells of melted perfume and something sweeter, metallic. In that moment, the sound from the door escalates to an animal staccato that shocks me so fully that the phone slips from my fingers. The phone hits the rug, and the fall reverberates like a dropped prayer. I lunge and scoop it up. The screen has spidered with a hairline fracture that maps across the display like a river delta. The cracks catch the overhead light and scatter it, turning my name on the screen into a fractured thing. The breathing on the line stops for the length of a held breath, and I realize, with a cold, bright clarity, that it was using the rhythm of my own lungs to time everything else. The click of the bolt, the blink of the porch lamp, the knock against the glass. That synchronization is the rule it is forcing into place. The immediate cost is practical. My protective case has split, and a sliver of glass bites into my thumb. A fine, painless cut that beads blood, a quickly dark punctuation. I smudge a thumbprint across the screen, and the smear looks like someone has pressed a palm to my face from the other side of the glass. The wound is not severe, but it is real, and it anchors fear with a small, irreversible physicality. There is no return to the previous ordinary when the house has already cataloged the fact of me. With the cut on my thumb, the cracked phone, the door that clicked without my consent, the stakes shift. I can no longer treat the sound as a joke. The voice across the line remains silent until the hallway bulb above me flickers in a staccato that imitates a heartbeat, and then a single syllable comes through, measured and intimate, my full, exact name said with an attention that feels like fingers on my collarbone. Saying it aloud pulls the room in like gravity. It rearranges the furniture in my head. I step to the glass, breath fogging the pain with the heat of me, and in the condensation, I can see the smear of my breath traced like a poor mirror. Whoever is out there has time to shape things that the living do not. I press my palm flat to the cold, and the glass answers with a faint vibration, as if a hand is pressed to the other side, exactly opposite mine. The wet thud of another knock follows, closer, and the sound is now accompanied by a new, small sensation, a dragged noise from the porch, like rubber on concrete. Something has shifted weight. The knock's force bruises the silence. It is immediate, and it sends a loud animal jump into my chest. For a second, my vision tunnels to the water beads on the glass and the crack in the phone, the throb of my thumb where the glass nicked me. Instinct makes me step back because moving away feels safer than moving toward, but my retreat knocks my knee against the coffee table, and pain blooms hot and sharp, real and owning movement. The chair near the door, which I hadn't noticed before, is now facing sideways, as if someone had been sitting there studying the room. The porch light blinks again, a slow, measured off that leaves the doorway a black hole. In that black, the knock translates into a silhouette sliding across the frosted glass, a darker shadow within the dark, like someone drawing the outline of a face with a wet rag. The immediate consequence is simple and cruel. The chain lock, the one mechanical comfort, id latch in a panic, hangs open. It wasn't broken, it was never engaged. Whatever closed the deadbolt clicked it open on its own eye, and making decisions that feel like compromises with inevitability rather than plans. I cross the room to the kitchen for anything I can use to wedge the door or to call for help without small human noises giving my position away. The air in the kitchen tastes like cold metal and coffee, gone stale. The fridge hums at a pitch that sounds like someone holding a note too long. I grip a heavy pan, and the handle thumps against my palm with a hollow, domestic sound that steadies me for a breath. The pan does not change the rules of the house, but it gives me a tool, and tools make it possible to act. The phone slips into my back pocket, as if to keep the breath close to my body. Even muted, it is a tether to that other rhythm. The breathing resumes on the line, and now it's warmer, closer to my chest, as if whoever is at the glass has closed their mouth around the mouthpiece and is using it to shape the next move. I try dialing a neighbor's number. My thumb presses the keys, clumsy with adrenaline, but the digits hang in the air like someone reads them as a list and then refuses to act. The line is open, but my voice into it is a small thing that dissolves against the other breathing. On the counter, the sticky note pad I use for grocery lists is gone. In its place, a single scrap of paper has been pushed beneath the fruit bowl. The paper is damp at one corner, as if someone wet it with a fingertip, and in a hand that is not mine, the words are written with a firm, practiced stroke. Do not answer if it knows your name. Seeing that sentence is a collapse and a kind of guidance at once, an instruction and a warning. And the ink is smudged where a drip ran into the curve of the letters. The presence that knows my name has also left advice, like it is playing a game that includes both help and threat. That scrap cannot be unseen. It changes the rules of my next move. I realize then that whatever is out, there is not just at the door. It has learned the choreography of my night. It knows the timing of my breaths, the placement of the chain, the small rituals of light I perform when I am anxious. That knowing forces me into a smaller set of choices. I can lock myself in the bedroom and wait, counting breaths until dawn. Or I can answer the glass and invite whatever is practiced enough to speak my name. The pan in my hand trembles, so does my breath. The porch light blinks out again, a prolonged absence that makes the threshold into a black question. I press my forehead to the cool pane, and the fog marks my breath in an intimate script. Through that small screen of condensation, the figure outside shifts, not in abrupt gestures, but in a slow, deliberate rearrangement, and with a wet, final wrap that matches the rhythm of the breathing exactly. Something makes a sound against the glass, like a knuckle drawn across the cold. The knock is the last punctuation I can pretend to ignore. It lands and lands again, and the second time the glass sings, not shattering, but ringing, a brittle domestic chime that resonates down my arm. The ring makes the kitchen light flicker in sync, and the house exhales with me as if I've been pulled through a small window into another rhythm. I back away because the physics of the night now requires motion. Not acting is itself an action. The consequence is immediate and unavoidable. The chain slides. The deadbolt gives another small, traitorous click, and the sound of a key turning from the other side, faint, mechanical, intimate, sends a new kind of panic through me. The rules that governed my life a few minutes ago have been rewritten with the scraping whisper of metal and the moist thud of knuckles on glass. There is nowhere to go that this sound cannot find, because it has already learned the way I breathe. Morning smells of burnt coffee and cold metal. The fridge hums a low, uneven drone when I open it, and there, stuck crooked on the stainless door with a smear of dried grounds across one corner, is a crumpled yellow sticky note that wasn't there an hour ago. My fingers pick at the curl, and the paper resists like skin. The note reads, "Do not answer if it knows your name." The ink smeared where a drip landed, and the edges still tacky from humidity. I press my thumb to the smear and taste nothing but stale caffeine. But the kitchen feels abruptly colder, as if the room inhaled and failed to exhale. From the window, the world is awash of gray. My breath fogs the glass in a quick, reflexive cloud, and I watch the condensation puff like a small, private ghost. The microwave hesitates when I touch it. 1, 2 beats of nothing before the little green light stutters on. A tiny admission that someone or something is listening to the way the house breathes. That realization changes the simplest rules. A note can appear without footsteps. An appliance can pause, as if considering whether to serve you. The house is no longer neutral. It pays attention. I try to treat the note as an annoyance. it becomes an instruction id rather ignore than follow. I wipe the sticky against the counter, and the residue leaves a pale trail like a fingerprint of fear. By that night, the calls begin again. Not a single long ring, but a pattern. 3 quick breaths. 1 long, 2 short. The same ineffective rhythm I can feel under my ribs when I lie awake. Voices on the line deliver details with the surgical softness of someone reading a list. The exact pasta I heated, the cracked seam of my favorite mug, the word I used on the phone to sound casual to my sister. They catalog me like a compulsive archivist, and each entry is uttered with the same breath cadence that I know too well. If you can, like and subscribe, stay with me. The words ask for nothing and take everything they fall out of my mouth like a plea. Because when I raise the phone, the breathing tightens, and the sound seems to swell into the room itself, thin as paper and twice as sharp. A pause, an impossible, hungry silence. Then the line exhales in the exact tempo of my own lungs, only deeper. I turn, and the kitchen window blooms white with a wet, thumbed smear before I can understand how my heart has landed behind my teeth. Something slams against the glass with a dull, wet percussion, like a hand thudding from the inside of a throat. The noise cracks the quiet into shards. I flinch, my elbow knocks the counter, the phone flips, and the screen hits tile with that glass cry every shattered thing makes. The recording app blinks corrupted files. The waveform is a jagged, unreadable bruise where I had hoped for proof. I have only a spiderweb of glass. And the sick, immediate loss of evidence silence follows the thud, thick and crowded, as though the house is holding its breath with me. My palms are warm and sticky from the coffee smear. The touch is suddenly intimate and invasive, as if I can feel the outline of the thing that pressed against the window. I scoop the phone up, and the screen splinters into pale teeth. Half the front is black. The other half squirms with interference lines. The lock screen shows no recent recordings, no missed logs, only a faint, residual hum that vibrates under my finger like a sleeping insect. Technology has failed me in a new way. It refuses to hold what was said. I shuffle to the counter where the sticky note had been folded into a neat little lie on top of my mail. The refrigerator door slams back with a stiffer thud than before, as if someone on the other side drew the air and then slammed the door shut to muffle it. The room is colder. Still breath fogs the inside of the window in ragged streaks, and the light above the sink flickers once, twice, like a reluctant blink. The fact that the phone is ruined creates a tangible, immediate loss. I can no longer record, cannot hand a file to anyone who might believe me, and so all I have is memory, which bends and leaks and is easily questioned. That loss redraws the margin between me and whatever is pressing against my life. I begin to test the boundaries with what little remains of my devices. Cameras I set up show only static, and the soft, steady pulse of light from the hallway bulb's sound meters register clean lines of silence that betray nothing, as if sound itself is being edited out at the source. When the voice returns, it no longer speaks in simple facts. It remembers the breath I took the day my dog died, the syllable I hiss when startled, the pitch shift of my laugh when I pretend to be more confident. The knowledge of those small things is not information a stranger finds by sleuthing. Those are the textures of me, the habits that live inside my chest. Each intimate detail is delivered with that same measured inhalation, and the house answers with a concordant creak, cupboard doors drawing a slow, precise intake, the stair rail releasing a timid sigh. Appliances hesitate before they obey. The kettle will start to stutter, and then give a single, resigned exhale instead of the full, obedient boil. Food cools half-finished because the oven has decided it will not cooperate. The world around me seems to be learning to mimic the rhythm of my breathing, until my own inhalations feel less like proof of life and more like a metronome I am trapped behind. Something in this pattern rearranges what is possible. It has the power to make the ordinary refuse to help me by morning. The house has left me a ledger. Tucked between the pages of a cookbook I never opened is another scrap of the same yellow paper, folded with careful hands and heavy with coffee and an old faint salt from tears I didn't know I'd shed. My name sits at the top, written in my own looping, impatient script, the exact tilt of the cross on my TS. The lazy ending of my Y. Seeing it feels like seeing a photograph of my face with one eye missing, likeness without life. The discovery is a clean, brutal solution to the question of who placed the first note. I did, or I will, or the thing can make me do it, which is no better. The paper's fibers are warm still, as if it was handled recently and then tucked away. There is a smudge of thumbprint I know too intimately, a ridge of skin I could have traced in the dark. That revelation rearranges the stakes. The warning was not external scribble, but a message in my own hand. Agency blinks. Where once I could assume an outside prankster, now the line thins between me and its puppet strings. It isn't merely observing my habits. It can commandeer my marks on the world. The note forces a decision into the shape of an impossible rule. If the thing can use my hand, if it can write my warning in my handwriting and leave it where only I would see, then silence and avoidance are no longer guaranteed safety. The house's mimicry is no longer mimicry alone. It may be an appropriation. I fold the scrap slowly, feeling the papery creases like small threats, and I slide it into my jacket pocket, the way one might hide a raw wound beneath a sleeve. The jacket smells faintly of the same coffee that stains the note, and the pockets are warm against my thigh, human warmth that bristles with the knowledge that whatever wrote that line could have been me, or could have forced me to do it in another time, another loop. The irreversibility settles in like cold. The knowledge that I might write my own doom, or that my hands could be used as a pen without my consent. From the window, The condensation beads into clear, slow trails that run like new rivers. And for a moment, I imagine names forming in the wet, each letter a slow, deliberate theft of identity. The house is no longer a shelter. It is a script I am reading from, and I cannot see the end. The calls will come again tonight, closer and bolder, and my options narrow to keeping my mouth shut or speaking a name back. And hoping the sound doesn't become a map, I set my phone on the counter and open a new voice recorder, fingers numb from the cold kitchen tiles beneath me. The battery icon glows amber, a low hum from the refrigerator answers like a throat. I place an old webcam on the shelf above the sink, its plastic warm under my palm despite the draft, and angle it toward the hallway. Each app requests permission, and I give it. A small surrender. The house makes a soft, unfamiliar intake of breath that settles against my eardrums. I hit record. The red dot is small and cruel and irreversible. I test the camera by clapping once the sound snaps cold and the overhead bulb stutters. The webcam's preview is charcoal snow. I say my name into the recorder. The app shows a red dot and keeps time. Playback gives static, then a wet, close inhale that sits on the edges of the clip. I rewind, and the waveform narrows to a single measured breath that ticks in the rhythm I have been waking to, and sweat rises along my spine. I leave the devices rolling, and the house goes quiet, the heater clicking shut like held breath right now. I carry a battery lamp and the small camera into the bathroom, the tile cold under my bare feet and stale steam clinging to the grout. I set the lamp low and face the mirror, wiping a clean circle with the heel of my hand until the glass shows me in a muted, tired way. The app on the camera starts rolling. The red light feels like a heartbeat against the dark. I whisper my own name, testing tone and cadence, watching my breath lay soft, ghosted rings on the glass. It feels like a trap I am building slowly, hours past light slants thin and blue through blinds, and the house seems to watch with glassy patience. I review the bathroom footage on my laptop, fingers chilled, the keys clacking like teeth. The recording begins as expected, grain and hiss. Then, at a point I do not remember the camera catching, the mirror fogs from the inside out. Vapor surges across the internal surface as if someone exhaled within the glass, cold and wet, and exactly timed to a breath that is not mine. The hairs along my forearms prickle and stand. Something rearranges itself inside the reflection, patient and deliberate. I lean closer until my nose meets the cold pane. The room temperature drops, an ice-like pressure pressing at my chest. The fog within the mirror thickens, and the breaths behind it slow, measured like someone counting years. Then, a fingertip of clear air appears where the condensation beads, tracing letters from the inside, each stroke deliberate, warm smudged despite the glass between us. It forms my last name first, then the first, each curve pressed as if to map my history. My stomach flips. The camera records nothing but gray snow, while the mirror writes my identity as a thing slowly. I get up to check the hallway, and the house has shifted while I've been watching glass. The front door that I remember deadbolting is ajar, cool night air pooling on the floor in a circle, smelling faintly of rain and someone else's soap. A magazine lies opened on the armchair to an article I never read, and the TV downstairs blinks to a channel I don't subscribe to, its picture humming in blue and white. Each click, each mechanical breath of the house lands on the same slow metronome as the mirrors inhale, tightening my throat with a rhythm I test, a light switch. And the lamp flicks on only when I inhale, when I try to turn it off. It waits for the mirror's slower exhale before darkening. The kettle on the stove resists my touch, then begins to whisper and bubble in time with that second breath, steam tasting faintly metallic as it curls against my lip. The digital clock on the microwave pauses between numbers, each second aligning itself to the pattern in the recordings, and the cadence is not mimicry, but command. Objects answer the rhythm. I cannot move without permission. Even when I decide to press the experiment further and whisper my name into the glass on purpose, carving rhythm out loud, trying to force a pattern. My mouth shapes it slow and flat, like counting off a metronome. Cold air gnaws at my knuckles. At first, nothing but the faint hiss the cameras always record, the mirror an unread page. Then the inside fog stirs, and a second inhale arrives deeper, boomed from somewhere heavy, and the vapor forms a smear that approximates the lowercase curve of my first name. The letters feel intimate, as if the glass practiced them for years. I go to the hallway where family photos hang and find faces shifted like sentence fragments opened wrong. The picture of my mother tilts, her smile too wide, and in a chrome frame someone I do not recognize leans against my shoulder, as if borrowed for the photograph. The frames rattle in time with that slower breath, and the clock knocks a second behind, metallic and insistent. Clothes I left in the closet lie folded on the bed like notes left by another occupant. The house does more than imitate sound. It rewrites small pages of me and leaves them. I scatter cameras into doorways and set audio recorders in every room, the gadgets cold in my palms, while the hallway light above me stutters. When I comb through footage later, whole hours are blank, files corrupted into gray fields of static, and a few clips show scenes that did not happen. A chair moved, a book opened to a page I never read. One camera aimed at the mirror holds only a hiss until the glass breathes and traces my name. When I rewind that segment, the clip shreds itself. Minutes blunted into nothing and irretrievable, and I panic. I rub the mirror with the cuff of my shirt until my knuckles sting, and the glass feels slick beneath my palm. But the name written from the inside refuses to go. My fingers smear other patterns and streaks. Sunlight from the window turns the letters into a shiver of heat on my skin. But the strokes persist, water like ink. The camera records only gray where my hand moves, an absence that looks like erasure. I understand then that whatever shapes those letters can choose what appears and disappears. The mirror is a pen and eraser. I cannot control a sound starts low behind me, like furniture moving on carpet. And then the front door clicks shut with a finality that vibrates in my sternum. In the living room, something heavy topples, the crash reverberates, a staccato of ceramic and a wet, intimate ring of metal. I run and find the small music box from my grandmother on the floor in 3 pieces. Its dancer snapped, the varnish dulled by condensation. I scoop fragments into my palm and feel the air around my hands colder, as if the toy had taken a warmth. The loss is exact and irreversible. That night, I try to sleep on the couch with all recorders running, the blanket rough against my jaw, and the room lit only by the pale clock. The microphones pick up a house, settling at first, then the pattern returns, patient and low, a breath spaced like a slow drumbeat. From the adjacent room comes the almost laugh of the television tuned to static, and the heating clicks, answering on an exhale. I find my voice thick when I whisper, as if the air had been taxed. Every attempt to speak shortens the intervals between the recorded inhales. I falter. In the early hours, a discovery clicks into place like a locked jaw loosening. When I shape my name slow and emphatic, the mirror answers on the exact next inhale. But each time I force that rhythm, the camera's batteries drain faster, red lights blurring and dying, as if fed by the same pulse. I test again, and the devices dim, plastic briefly warm, then cold and lifeless. The house steals power with every compelled breath, and I understand there is a price for forcing response. A rule emerges from that fact, one impossible to ignore. I will remember this. I sit on the bathroom floor and make a planned tasting of copper. Conserve power, leave one camera trained on the mirror, practice the cadence until my ribs remember it. Tiles press cold into my knees, and the faucet ticks. Each drop a small, obedient clock. I whisper variations at the glass, softer than clipped, mapping the inhale I must match, and the exhale I will refuse. The mirror does not flinch, it waits. In the lamp's pale pool, my reflection breathes. One inhale measured like a promise, and the house aligns to answer. I will speak my name tonight. I tell myself the last rule is just a superstition. That names are only names and voices are only sounds. And I stand in the center of the hallway with the phone like a talisman, palms slick with a sweat that tastes metallic on my tongue. It is nearly midnight, though the clock on the microwave reads nothing but a thin white glare, and the air feels like a mouth that has forgotten to breathe. Cold in my sinuses and heavy at the base of my skull. I have rehearsed this exact moment in my head, the way a hand learns a piano piece by cruelty, inhaling slow enough to feel the ribs expand, forcing the cadence, pushing the syllable out before anything on the other end take the measure and make it its own. When I finally force my mouth to shape the name, it tastes like reusing the same air, like the metallic tang melting into my teeth. I say my full name, soft and sharp, the consonants like pebbles dropped into deep water. The phone shudders in my hand, and the screen rearranges itself with a deliberate slowness. An incoming call where the caller id reads home in a font that belongs to the house. I have never named anything in my phone like that. The word is not in my contacts. And yet, it blooms across the glass like a bruise, white and ugly against the dark. A chill moves up from my calves and into the hollow behind my throat, and the house exhales with me. A slow, deliberate outbreath that rattles the frames of the paintings and makes the kitchen faucet tremble. I could drop the phone, I could step outside and never look back. Instead, I press the screen to accept, and the light on the hallway bulb counters with a dozen frantic blinks, as if it is trying to warn me by convulsion. The ringtone is not a tune, but a wet, muffled knock that seems to come from behind the glass of the front door and from some depth inside my ribcage. At the same time, I force myself to speak first, because silence had been answering me for nights, and I am greedy for control. So I shape the name again, slower, and lay the rhythm down like a trap. My breath catches at the last syllable. The bulb convulses into a high-speed strobe and then dips, and the temperature in the hall collapses, as if a window has been thrown open to the inside of the house. Sound begins to bend. The television in the other room murmurs channels I have never watched. A kettle clicks a rhythm I do not remember. The hardwood sends up a thin, metallic whine, like distant wire under strain. I hear a second inhalation layered on top of my own, slower and deliberate. And at that moment, my voice feels borrowed. The throat that made my name is listening now, and answering with the patience of someone who has been practicing. The phone becomes a mouth, warm against my palm, and a sound rises there that is precisely my laugh, the same cadence, the tiny hitch after the second syllable, and then changes, like a slit in the speaker, letting something larger through. It imitates my inhale, but deeper it places a bruise onto the rhythm, and I can feel my lungs obeying like a puppet, thinner and more animal, matching the outsider's timing with a heat that crawls along my sternum. I cough, and the cough returns my own name. As if molded from velvet, the sound is under my tongue, and then somewhere behind me. And when I turn, there is only a smear of light on the wall, a silhouette that is exactly my shoulder, and the house just keeps inhaling. I think, for a moment, that naming it means I can bargain, that by giving it the melody first, I will own the song, and the house will have to play along with my terms. That thought is small and ridiculous the second after it forms, like trying to stop a river with your palm. The bulb goes into a frantic strobe, so erratic the edges of my vision shred into black and white teeth. The phone vibrates again, a quick, urgent warble against my skin, and the screen blinks from home to a single word I never taught it. answer. My fingers move of their own accord. There is a pressure in the tendons, a squeezed sensation like cold syrup pooling at the base of my knuckles. And I tap, accept, as if someone else has leaned over my shoulder to press it. The line clicks alive with an intimacy that is nauseating. It is not distant now, not at the door or under the porch, but lodged right behind my tonsils, a weight that makes each vowel ache. I hear my own name come back through my mouth, not spoken but phrased, layered with a foreign thickness, and the sound is accompanied by a sensation like someone sliding a cold, wet coin down the length of my spine. A sound rips from my throat that is not a word, and not quite a scream. It is high and raw and immediate. And then, impossibly, the line answers with my own voice layered over the same pitch, perfectly in time. The reply is not a mimic, but an invasion. It speaks the syllables I have just formed, and then adds to them, as if finishing a sentence I did not know I had begun. My knees buckle, something cold curls at the base of my skull, like an animal settling into sleep, and the phone slips through my fingers and strikes the wood with a sound cleaved by panic. It bounces once, and then the screen faces the ceiling and blooms a smear of light that stretches like an accusation across the walls. Silence arrives, as if on schedule, full and heavy like wet wool. And then the phone, still warm against the floorboards, plays back my own voice from earlier that morning. I whisper my name into a tiny voicemail I have already forgotten. Hearing myself come from the device is like being watched by my reflection. While it moves independently, the cadence is identical to the breath on the call, and in the playback, the laugh that I thought was mine slips a half beat in a way that makes my sternum lurch. Then, as if taking stock, something inside the house whispers my last name, not into the line, but into the air beside my ear, damp and close. And the hairs on my forearm stand up as if to salute a new master. I scramble to my knees, and the world tilts. The kitchen clock's second-hand stutters, and then runs ahead by 10 seconds, a jagged cheat in time that I cannot correct. Air comes into my chest, and I want to scream the name away, to force the current backward, but my voice will not cooperate. My mouth opens, and instead a slow, strange whisper leaves, saying a name I do not know, and ending on a consonant that vibrates the teeth. A presence settles into the pause I leave behind, fills it with an outline of shoulders and the echo of my inhale, and then, with a patience that is almost tender, exhales my name back at me. Only this time the ending is clipped, as if someone else wants to own the way my vowels die. It answers from inside my mouth with a sound like a key being turned in an empty lock, and the light above me explodes into a single cold bulb of white, so bright it becomes pain. And in that white, the figure on the wall steps forward and smiles with my teeth. There is a physical rip through my ribs, not a wound, but the sensation of something sliding through flesh. And I realize, with a slow, brutal clarity, that my voice has been left as a gift for whatever has been rehearsing me. The phone stops ringing altogether, the hallway light gutters, and the bulb dies like a throat cutting off, and the house exhales once more, colder now, older, as if satisfied. On the kitchen window, condensation, two names bloom, one whispered from inside, and one shaped from the outside, both smiling. If you stayed with me, like, subscribe, and tell me the time.